Ladies and gentlemen, there is a mystery buried in the realm of fairy tales, a parable disguised in children's stories, a voice echoing from a land of dwarfs and dreams, but it was never merely for children. It was always about the end, about kingdoms, about a coming deception, and if you have ears to hear, now is the time to listen. They called her Snow White, pure, innocent, beautiful, a mirror of righteousness, a figure beloved by heaven and hunted by hell. But in this tale, there's more than a girl and a poisoned apple. There is a code, a prophecy, and it's unfolding before our eyes. Snow White is the remnant. She is the bride, the pure one. She is Israel. She is the church. She is you, if you walk in truth. But the kingdom was infiltrated. The queen, dark, proud, and full of witchcraft, looks into the mirror, seeking beauty, but finds only wrath. She cannot stand what is pure, and so she speaks to the mirror. Who is the fairest? She does not seek beauty, she seeks domination. The mirror is the media of this world, the voice of the age, a tool of illusion. It does not reflect what is. It reflects what she wants. It proclaims her beauty while condemning the righteous. The mirror becomes prophecy's echo chamber, creating a false reality and feeding the queen's pride. So what does she do? She sends the assassin, a death decree against the innocent, but the pure cannot be killed. The true Snow White flees into the wilderness, like Elijah, like Israel, like the saints of Revelation, protected for a time away from the face of the serpent. But the enemy is relentless, and he comes again. This time it is not the knife, but the apple, not the sword, but seduction, not persecution, but deception, a poisoned gift, beautiful, red, luring. It is not forced down her throat, it is offered freely. This is the gospel of the false Messiah, the gospel of self, of compromise, the culture of death wrapped in the color of desire, and she takes it. She falls. The church that was once awake lies asleep. Silent, still, beautiful, but breathless, and the dwarfs, the watchers, the remnant, the few faithful, stand around her. They weep, they pray, but they cannot awaken her. The world says the tale ends there, that the light has fallen, but there is one more, a prince from another land, a rider on a white horse. He comes not with poison, but with life, not with seduction, but with truth. He comes with a kiss not of romance, but of resurrection. And she awakens, the eyes open, the breath returns, the bride rises. The end is not death, it is glory. The mirror is shattered, the apple cast away, the queen dethroned, the kingdom restored. We are living in the shadow of this parable. The queen is rising again. The mirror is speaking louder than ever. The apple is glistening in the garden. The remnant is being hunted. But the story is not over. If you are Snow White, run, run from the seduction. Run from the system, run into the wilderness of God. If you are one of the dwarfs, stand, watch, pray, be faithful. If you are the sleeping bride, it is time to awaken. The prince is coming. The kiss of heaven is near. And when he comes, every spell will be broken, every lie exposed, every mirror shattered. The kingdom will rise, and the story, the real story, will begin. In the beginning of the prophetic tale, Snow White represents purity, innocence, and truth untouched by corruption. She is not just a character in a story, but a symbol of the remnant people, those who remain undefiled in an age of compromise. She walks in righteousness, but her presence provokes the wrath of the queen, the embodiment of pride, rebellion, and counterfeit power. The queen does not tolerate anything that exposes her darkness, and so she looks into her mirror, which never shows truth, only affirmation. The mirror becomes a reflection of the world's media and systems, tools used by the enemy to shape perception, to redefine evil as good and good as evil. Snow White becomes a target not because she is evil, but because she is good, and in the last days that which is pure will be persecuted more than that which is perverse. The enemy knows that to destroy the truth he must first isolate it, slander it, and send a death decree against it. The queen sends the hunter to destroy her in secret, to erase her from the earth. But the plan fails, and the girl flees into the wilderness. This wilderness is not weakness, but a place of divine preservation, a pattern seen throughout Scripture, from Moses to Elijah to the woman in Revelation. The pure ones are hidden for a time, while the system of Babylon tightens its grip. It is in the wilderness that the war between the righteous and the deceived begins to take its full shape. The queen's fury does not die with the failure of the assassin. Instead, it evolves. She changes tactics, trading the blade for a more seductive weapon, the poisoned apple. This shift is not just a plot twist, it is a prophetic revelation. The greatest threat to the pure is not persecution, but deception. The apple is crafted to look beautiful on the outside, red and appealing, but within it lies the venom of death. It is not forced upon Snow White. It is offered gently, even lovingly. This is the method of the enemy in the end times, not to destroy with violence first, but to seduce with pleasure, compromise, and counterfeit beauty. The apple represents the ideologies, temptations, and systems of the age that are wrapped in the language of love, freedom, and self, yet infused with spiritual poison. The deception comes with a smile, not a snarl. It offers empowerment but delivers captivity. Snow White's fall is not caused by violence, but by agreement. She takes the apple by choice, just as many in the church will embrace compromise, thinking it harmless, even righteous. It is in this moment that she falls into a deep slumber, appearing alive, but in truth paralyzed, breathless, motionless. This is the image of a church that has embraced the culture, adopted its values, and surrendered its purity. It still looks beautiful, it still wears the garments of faith, but it no longer breathes the breath of the Spirit. The fall comes not with a crash, but with a bite. As Snow White lies in her lifeless slumber, the scene shifts to those who surround her, the dwarfs, the faithful ones. They are the image of the remnant watchers in the last days, those who have not bowed the knee to the queen, who have not tasted the apple, who remain awake while the rest sleep. They are not powerful in the eyes of the world, not royal or mighty, but they are loyal, devoted, and broken-hearted over the fall of the pure. They gather around the fallen, not to abandon her, but to mourn, to guard, and to wait. This is a picture of the true intercessors in the end times, those who weep for the sleeping church, those who fast and cry out for revival, who hold vigil around a body that once moved in power, but now lies still. They do not have the ability to awaken her, but they know she is not truly dead. They believe in a promise that transcends what they see. In the prophetic realm, these are the watchmen on the wall, the ones who have oil in their lamps while others slumber in the deception of false peace. They are mocked, marginalized, seen as insignificant, but they carry the burden of the bride. They recognize the signs. They understand the times. While the queen revels in her false victory and the world celebrates her illusions, these few remain at the side of the fallen one, believing for what the world no longer believes in resurrection. The queen believes she has won. The mirror reflects her victory. The world echoes her narrative, but she does not understand the nature of the true kingdom. She understands control, manipulation, enchantment, but not resurrection. The fallen Snow White rests in a glass coff, invisible, honored, but unmoving. The church becomes a museum, admired from the outside, filled with traditions, liturgy, stained glass, and empty altars. It still looks holy, still carries the memory of glory, but the spirit has departed. What remains is form without power, beauty without breath, and the queen is content, because she knows that a dead church is more useful to her than a persecuted one. The enemy's greatest strategy is not to burn the church, but to preserve it in a state of false holiness, to let it remain in ritual and memory while stripping it of authority. Yet within the stillness something begins to stir. The dwarfs, the remnant, have not left their post. They continue to watch, they continue to pray, and far off, unseen by the queen, a figure is moving closer. A prince, not from the system of this world, but from another realm, approaches. He is not deceived by the appearance of death. He carries with him a kiss, a sign of covenant, the breath of life. The queen cannot stop him, the mirror cannot distort him, the coffin cannot hold him back. As he draws near, the realm begins to shift, the winds begin to move, the spell begins to crack. The false power begins to tremble. The prince arrives not in pageantry, but in quiet authority. He does not seek permission from the queen or approval from the mirror. His mission is singular, to awaken what has been silenced, to breathe life into what was lost. He bends to Snow White, not in romance, but in restoration. The kiss he gives is not of the flesh, but of the spirit. It is the kiss of resurrection. This is the image of the coming awakening, when the true bride of Messiah will rise from her slumber. It will not be by programs, marketing, or methods. It will be by the breath of the Holy One, the same breath that raised Lazarus, the same spirit that hovered over the waters in Genesis, the same power that rolled away the stone. What the enemy wrote off as finished will be the very thing God resurrects for the final hour. The spell of deception begins to break. The religious facade crumbles. The remnant who waited now witness the miracle. The sleeping bride begins to stir. Her eyes flutter open, and the breath returns to her lungs. She rises not as she fell. She rises stronger, refined by the fire, purified through brokenness, and awakened to war. The queen's illusions begin to shatter, the mirror's lies are exposed, and the throne she built on vanity begins to tremble. This awakening is not gentle. It is violent in the spirit. It shakes systems, it breaks idols, it overturns what has been exalted against the knowledge of truth with the bride awakened. The war that had been hidden now comes into the open. The enemy can no longer operate in shadows. The queen's wrath intensifies because she fears what the awakened church can become. No longer asleep, no longer seduced, the bride now walks in discernment, eyes opened, heart burning with holy fire. She begins to remember who she is, not a damsel in distress, but a warrior in white. The mirror can no longer define her. The apple no longer tempts her. The queen's authority begins to crumble, not because it is attacked from the outside, but because the illusion can no longer hold under the weight of truth. The awakened remnant begins to speak with power, not from pulpits alone, but in streets, homes, and hidden places. Their voices carry the sound of heaven, disrupting the atmosphere of complacency. Repentance begins to spread, not as a whisper, but as a roar. The world, once under the spell of the queen's charm, begins to sense the shaking. Systems tremble, false prophets fall, thrones built on deception begin to crack. The spiritual battle intensifies, not in theory but in reality. Persecution rises, but so does glory. Those who once mocked now marvel. The war is not between people, but between kingdoms, light and darkness, truth and deception, heaven and Babylon. The prince does not leave his bride powerless, he gives her authority. She walks in the power of the Spirit and the testimony of truth, and the gates of hell begin to shake at her steps. The mirror that once served the queen begins to crack. It no longer reflects power, no longer flatters her pride, no longer speaks her twisted truth without distortion. This is the prophetic sign of a shifting age. The tools once used to control perception begin to betray their masters. The media, the voices of culture, the platforms of deception begin to fracture under the weight of revealed truth. What was hidden in darkness starts to come into the light. The mirror's spell is breaking because the spirit of truth is moving. Exposures come, systems unravel, secrets are shouted from rooftops. The queen is enraged, but powerless to stop it. Her grip on the culture weakens not because she releases it, but because the illusions she built her throne upon cannot survive the presence of real light. The awakened bride no longer listens to the mirror. She no longer waits for its approval or bends to its narratives. She has found a higher voice, a truer word, and it burns like fire in her bones. Her reflection is not drawn from glass, but from glory. She sees herself through the eyes of the bridegroom, not the eyes of the world. The mirror once said who was fairest, but now it cannot speak. The voice of the deceiver begins to lose its echo. The people who once followed blindly begin to question. A holy disruption spreads. The kingdom of lies begins to feel the pressure of collapse. The battle for perception becomes a battlefield for souls. The queen, exposed and desperate, unleashes her final fury. She no longer hides behind the apple or the mirror. She begins to openly oppose the awakened ones, declaring war on the remnant, using fear, control, and persecution as her final weapons. This mirrors the final stage of the age, when the systems of darkness no longer disguise themselves, but reveal their hatred for truth in full measure. Laws are changed, speech is silenced, and those who refuse to bow are labeled as threats to the order. But the awakened bride is no longer afraid. She has seen death, tasted exile, endured deception, and now walks in resurrection power. She cannot be intimidated because she knows the time. She knows the signs. She sees through the smoke. Her weapons are not carnal, but mighty through God. She begins to move in signs, in wonders, in unexplainable power that confounds the wise and unsettles the rulers of the earth. The final confrontation is not hidden but public, a cosmic collision playing out in real time. The false kingdom tries to silence the testimony, but the more it strikes, the louder the witness grows. Martyrs rise, not in defeat, but in glory. Their blood becomes seed, their stories become thunder. The earth groans, the heavens shake, and the final lines are drawn. The prince does not delay. The clock of eternity ticks toward the final hour. What began in a garden with a poisoned fruit now races toward a throne with the scepter of righteousness in hand. The stage is set for the final act. The bride fully awakened, and the queen fully unmasked. The false kingdom stands in defiance, clinging to power through lies, seduction, and force. But the power of illusion no longer holds sway over those whose eyes have been opened. The bride begins to walk not just in awareness, but in authority. She speaks with the voice of the king, declaring not opinion but decree. The enemy trembles because he knows the authority of a united, purified, and spirit-empowered remnant. The queen throws everything she has into the battle, distractions, accusations, counterfeits, all designed to wear down the saints, to weary the warriors, to cloud the vision of the faithful. But what she cannot understand is that the very pressure she applies only purifies the fire. The remnant becomes refined like gold. What was once scattered becomes joined. What was once quiet becomes bold. This is the hour of alignment. Every false alliance breaks. Every hidden idol is torn down. Every heart of compromise is brought to decision. The bride makes herself ready, clothed in white not by works, but by the righteousness of the one who gave himself for her. She no longer waits passively, she prepares actively. The atmosphere is charged. The heavens are ready to break open. The shaking intensifies not as a sign of destruction, but of deliverance. What was prophesied begins to unfold in rapid measure, and the earth itself groans for the revealing of the sons and daughters of glory. The heavens grow silent for a moment, as if creation itself holds its breath. The prince who once kissed the fallen bride awake now prepares to return not in secret, but in splendor. The deception that ruled the age begins to unravel completely, for what was once prophecy is now fulfillment. The sky prepares for invasion, not of darkness, but of blazing light. The armies of heaven are assembled, not to negotiate, but to conquer. The king rides on a white horse, crowned with many crowns, eyes like fire, and a robe dipped in blood. He comes not as the suffering servant, but as the reigning king, the Lion of Judah roaring through the end of the age. The bride, no longer hiding in wilderness or silence, now stands in radiant glory, reflecting the image of her king. She has overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of her testimony, loving not her life even unto death. She is not afraid, because she knows the voice that called her forth from slumber, now calls her forth into victory. Every spell cast by the queen shatters at his presence. Every throne built on rebellion collapses at his feet. Every voice that mocked now falls silent in awe. The great reversal begins. What was low is lifted. What was last is brought forward. What was broken is made whole. The king comes not only to rescue, but to reign, not only to awaken, but to establish forever the kingdom that cannot be shaken.